Okay, so just to get back to sort of summarizing all this, because this is a lot to take in, and I guarantee you people are totally confused right now on what is being said. So I'm just trying to bring it down, to help understand this. So basically, the idea is that Australia in 1996, you're claiming they basically wiped their hands of the UAP topic, right?
Yeah.
Now you discover these documents that state that Australia, amongst other nations, but let's just stick with Australia here, has met with AARO in a private sort of meeting to discuss either past events, get information from AARO, sort of collaborate, and plan on a future of working together about UAP, topic. And you find that significant because they had claimed before, we're done with this, but clearly they are working on this, right?
Yep.
And so to add on to it, well, no, please go ahead. What did I miss?
I was saying, that even before, Dr. Kirkpatrick announced that he had held the first Five Eyes Forum on UAP, the position of the Australian Department of Defense was, UAP is an issue for the United States. It's not something that the Australian Department of Defense is taking seriously. It's not part of our mission. It's an issue. It's an issue for the United States. And then you have obviously the announcement of this Five Eyes Forum on UAP and documents that have come out since then from the Australian Department of Defense saying, oh yes, we're now aware of AARO's reports. We're monitoring those reports. We're engaging with AARO. AARO share intelligence with us. So the Australian Department of Defense is now saying that it has open and active engagement with AARO, yet it does not have any. This is the thing that's frustrating. Australia is kind of where the US was about a decade ago, where you've got military aviators and personnel not reporting observations of UAP out of fear of stigma and ridicule. Obviously, Ryan Graves said that they submitted a number of hazard reports because of what they were encountering off the, I think it was the Atlantic coast in 2014, 2015. But there was no formal UAP reporting protocols. That is where Australia is today. There are no reporting or recording mechanisms in place for defense personnel to report observations of UAP. The Australian Department of Defense is saying that, our existing reporting protocols from a defense aviation safety standpoint are adequate. But they're absolutely not, because you have F-35 pilots sitting down with Ross Coulthart in his living room in his private residence, telling him, Ross, that we're seeing your anomalous objects in Australian airspace that we can't identify, and we're not reporting it to our higher ups because we know they're not taking the topic seriously. I don't want to have a black dot placed against my name if I report UAP. And what's going to happen to my report? There's no investigatory body at the moment on UAP, so they don't report it. And that in and of itself, I believe is the real national security threat that exists. That if you've got folks that are in a defense in Australian airspace or the Navy, they're observing anomalous objects, UAP, that could be foreign adversarial systems, that could be misidentification, could be our own technology, could be something else. But if they're not reporting it, that is the national security threat. Because what if it is China, Chinese surveillance, Chinese adversarial systems? We're in the same position that United States was about a decade ago. And all we as Australians want is the Australian government and Department of Defense to acknowledge that UAP is a real phenomenon, to investigate it and to reach some conclusion as to what UAP are, whether it is prosaic, explainable technology, or if it's something more exotic. Either way, we want to know, and I think that's worth advocating for.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, well said, man. So great segue. You brought up Ross Coulthart. Ross Coulthart saw the tweet that you had put out, right? And he added on to it. So I'm just going to read this real quick, and then I'll have you comment on it.
Yeah.
There's nothing in this UAP nonsense, of course. So why is the security classification for U.S. shared UAP intelligence with Australia up to TS/TK, top secret talent keyhole? satellite and sensor system imagery. This revealing FOIA from Grant Lovac shows UAPs are protected among the Five Eyes by the highest TS-SCI classification, but of course, nothing in it.
Yeah.
So what is he saying here? What is he getting at?
He's basically saying if you know, AARO has reached the conclusion, or the conclusions that AARO has put out publicly to date, is that it's balloons, it's drones, it's foreign adversarial systems. If it's all prosaic and, you know, that basic, why is then the highest level of security classification being placed on UAP? And to kind of walk you through what those acronyms are. So TS, SI, TK, REL, that's about as high as it gets for intelligence sharing amongst the Five Eyes. And so those acronyms, for your audience that may not have a frame of reference, TS stands for top secret. That's a classification level. SI is special intelligence. TK is talent keyhole. And REL means relevant to the Five Eyes. So if you're wondering what that all means, I'll just kind of describe it briefly. So TS, top secret, information that would cause grave damage to the United States government if it were to be disclosed without authorization. SI, special intelligence or sensitive compartmented information control system. That's a system to protect national intelligence information concerning sources and methods. SEI is divided into control systems and compartments, which are further divided into sub-control systems and sub-compartments. These systems and compartments are usually identified by a classified code word, some of which were leaked or have been declassified. In total, there may be between 100 to 300 SEI compartments and sub-compartments grouped into about 24 control systems. TK, talent keyhole. This is the one that I didn't know what the acronym was for, and I reached out to a few folks that were able to give me some context. TK, talent keyhole. This control system is for products of overhead collection systems, such as satellites and reconnaissance aircraft, and contains compartments which are identified by a classified code word. The original talent compartment was created in the mid-1950s for the U-2. In 1960, it was broadened to cover all national aerial reconnaissance, and the keyhole compartment was created for satellite intelligence. The term talent keyhole was declassified in 1998. So it's looking at satellite intelligence that's relevant to the Five Eyes. So you've got this highest level of intelligence that's being shared across the Five Eyes on the UAP topic. And if it's all just balloons, drone, and prosaic foreign adversarial systems, that raises the question, well, why is that level of classification being applied to UAP across the Five Eyes? Now, it could have to do with all of the classified sensors and sensing.
That's what I was going to say. Wouldn't they use that same if it was our stuff or their or Australia's right system? So. Yep. That doesn't seem that crazy.
And that's an argument, and I agree that's an argument that can be made. But it's certainly what is fascinating is that you've got Australia and the UK and New Zealand that have pretty much said none and Buckley's about the UAP topic to its citizens. We have the United States and Canada openly talking about it. Canada to a lesser extent, but they have the Sky Project Canada program that is due to release its report, I believe, in the coming months. And you've got the US leading the charge and being open with its citizens on its efforts to understand and get to the bottom of UAP, UFO. But Australia, New Zealand, UK, they're not talking about it. Yet they've been invited to participate in a UAP caucus.
And participating, because they could have denied it, right? They could have said, "No, we're not going to come. We in 1996, we washed our hands with it, AARO, so we're not going to come." But they said,
and that's exactly what they did. They denied attending, and then they backflipped and said, "Oh, yes,
that's also attend." Weird, right? That is also. I agree. That's the biggest part of this story to me. Like that's what stuck out to me. That's what made me say, "Okay, I got to get Grant on and talk about this." Wait a second. I thought we weren't talking about this. Well, we are talking about this, right? And you expressing, disappointment, right? And I think a lot of your fellow Aussies agree, right? Like, why are we not looking into this? Is clearly something's going on because we're leaving data on the ground, on the cutting room floor, right? You're saying there's pilots that are afraid to come forward and tell their stories. Well, that's data. That's
Yeah.
a report.
Yep.
We're leaving that out in the ether. So when AARO releases their historical report or any report, clearly it's insufficient because there is data not being reported. Now, should AARO's historical report include information from outside the world, or outside of America, excuse me? I don't know. Potentially. How can we understand the UAP topic when it's not an American topic? It's
Yeah.
not an Australian topic, right? It's a global topic. So the idea that we wouldn't include information from our Five Eyes, we're having meetings with them, we're sharing information. Why doesn't this go in the report? So for me, I can infer even more from these documents,
Yeah.
meaning that it's insufficient what we're getting from AARO. It's literally leaving data on the floor that we're not getting.
Absolutely. And point of fact, it actually did report in the historical report, volume 1 on page 26, I believe it is. It did put almost, it was kind of like a half a page summary about what allies of the United States have been doing on UAP. It talked primarily about Canada.
Oh, okay.
It talked
Okay.
about the UK, which, the UK put out the Condign report years ago saying basically there's nothing to UAP. So
yeah, but
UK,
half a page for 3 countries
half a-
worth of history. Come on, it's a joke.
there was no, the history that Australia has investigating the topic that was completely left off the page. Like Australia has from the 50s to the mid 90s investigating the UFO phenomenon, and it abandoned its ongoing investigation despite the fact that it could not it could not explain approximately 3% of its caseload, of its case files. And wouldn't that be enough of a compelling reason to want to continue to investigate the topic? If you can't explain away 100%, or obviously lack of data is always going to be an issue. But if there's still unresolved issues, unresolved cases, they're the ones that you want to get to the bottom of.